a question shakes the global fan community. Why is only one name continuously pushed to the front line, while two of the most iconic names are slowly disappearing from the spotlight? When Jin appeared with a series of massive support from HYBE after his military service, the public began to question the fairness of the agency's promotional strategy toward two figures long regarded as the emotional heart of BTS, Jungkook and Taehyung. Is this just a coincidence? Or is it intentional? Or, even further, is HYBE conducting an internal political maneuver that risks destroying the balance of BTS's image in the eyes of the world? Jin's return has indeed been welcomed with various grand agendas that are no small matter. From the direct welcome at the military site, exclusive appearance schedules, to involvement in symbolic moments broadcast to the global public. However, the spotlight is not only on Jin's presence, but also on the absence of the two other names that have long been synonymous with public magnetism, Jungkook and Kim Taehyung. In fact, in several visual documentations and internal promotions managed by HYBE's official channels, the presence of these two members is nearly undetectable. This situation has sparked serious suspicions among ARMY. Could this be a form of covert silencing? And even more worrying, for whose benefit? It is undeniable that Jin does hold a symbolic position as the eldest member who has now completed his military duty, something that is culturally and systematically valued in the eyes of the Korean public. But does that justify such a glaring imbalance in exposure? Jungkook, who in the past 2 years has been globally active with various international solo projects, is suddenly no longer a priority in major promotions. Likewise, Taehyung, known for his artistic appeal and strong international fanbase, now only occasionally appears in limited media framing. This is not about ordinary spotlight. This is the deliberate erasure of a symbolic structure. As the public sees Jin standing alone at various official events, without a single meaningful interaction with Jungkook or Taehyung, a louder question emerges. Is this the beginning of a major shift in BTS's internal narrative that has been built for more than a decade? Even sharper still, could HYBE be preparing for a phase where only one or two specific members are focused on as the main face of the brand? If so, this is no longer merely a marketing strategy, but a political decision that could fracture the emotional consistency that has long been the core strength of the BTS fandom. The oddity becomes more apparent when, at the same time Jin receives immense attention, Jungkook and Taehyung's public schedules seem to be systematically reduced. Jungkook, who previously made global headlines for his collaborations and international achievements, is now no longer made a central figure in HYBE's promotions. Yet from a data and digital engagement perspective, Jungkook remains one of the most dominant names in global searches. If the basis for promotion is market potential, then the sidelining of Jungkook is a decision that contradicts business logic. So, what is the real reason? Meanwhile, Taehyung's absence in major moments alongside Jin also becomes a massive question that shakes the community. Not only is he absent from public meetings, but also from symbolic interactions such as social media, visual documentation, and collaborative content that usually serve as BTS's core internal promotional tools. Previously, interactions between Taehyung and Jin were often a unique attraction for fans. Now, that relationship seems to have vanished without a trace. No one knows where it's headed, but clearly, the disappearance of this visual connection is not only confusing, but also arouses suspicion. Is HYBE intentionally separating them to form a new promotional structure focused on an individual narrative? Or is this a form of image control that is no longer aligned with the agency's internal policy direction? One thing is certain, this decision has not been accepted passively by ARMY. Strong reactions on social media have emerged, questioning the motive behind the seemingly exclusive spotlight on Jin. Many fans feel this imbalance has offended their emotional sense of justice toward all BTS members. Disappointment grew when many felt HYBE seemed to be closing the space for fans to witness natural interactions among the members. If previously the fandom was served moments of togetherness that made BTS feel whole and human, now what is presented is fragmentation and individualization. Not a few feel that the massive promotion of Jin feels empty without the symbolic presence of Jungkook and Taehyung. This is what leads many to ask, who is actually controlling this narrative, and for whose benefit? More than just disappointment, there is also a deep concern that these steps could have long-term impacts on BTS's cohesion as a group, not only in the eyes of the public, but also internally among the members. Because no matter what, media framing is never truly neutral. When one person is showcased as the center and the others are systematically pushed aside, this narrative will embed itself in the public consciousness and eventually create a distance that is difficult to bridge. The fact that Jungkook and Taehyung are two of the most digitally influential figures in the K-pop industry today makes HYBE's decision even harder to understand. Why are the two biggest assets in global engagement not being maximized when Jin returns? Why is there no moment of unity designed to show BTS as a solid, whole entity? On the contrary, what is visible is fragmentation and a sharp impression of internal selection. This is where ARMY feels that something is not right. If this strategy continues, the biggest risk may be the splitting of BTS's fanbase itself. Because ultimately, BTS is a product of unity preserved over more than 10 years. When that narrative is shifted to become individual and compartmentalized, the emotional value of BTS will be replaced by mere statistical figures. And for true fans, losing that value is far more painful than losing content. It is therefore understandable that the biggest question now is, does HYBE truly understand ARMY's emotional sensitivity? Is the decision to spotlight Jin while sidelining Jungkook and Taehyung born from market calculations, or from more complex internal dynamics? And if there really is a hidden agenda behind this massive promotion, will they dare to reveal it to the public? One thing is certain, the public is no longer a passive audience that simply accepts whatever is served by the agency. ARMY has evolved into an analytical force that is sharp, sensitive to signs, and not easily silenced by a singular narrative. Every gesture, every absence, every spotlight is now analyzed as part of a larger puzzle that is being pieced together collectively. And in that puzzle, the absence of Jungkook and Taehyung is not just a coincidence. It is a question that is this a new promotional strategy? Or is it a sign of a power shift within BTS's internal structure itself? Will Jungkook and Taehyung choose to remain silent, or will they send a response that shakes everything? And more unsettling, has BTS's togetherness all this time truly been real, or merely an illusion carefully maintained? Now the hot ball is in the hands of the public. Reactions, speculations, and suspicions will continue to flow. But one thing that cannot be denied, the massive promotion of Jin without the presence of Jungkook and Taehyung has opened a huge gap that cannot be closed by unilateral clarification. That gap is called doubt. And if not addressed soon, that doubt could become a chasm that threatens BTS's foundation itself. When the public sees the excessive spotlight on Jin post-military service, while the two most influential BTS icons, Jungkook and Taehyung, vanish from official news orbit, the question is not only about the narrative being built, but the motive behind that narrative. Is this merely selective promotion, or a more structured agenda to change BTS's representation in the eyes of the global public? Even further, are we witnessing the birth of a new BTS direction that no longer rests on solidarity, but on segmentation controlled by a specific power center within HYBE? But before drawing absolute conclusions, we must ask ourselves, how much of this information is true, and who spread it first? Do the sources spreading the theory of promotional imbalance have strong validity? Or is all of this just a construction of perception shaped through social media like TikTok, YouTube, and Twitter, which often become fertile ground for rumors without verification? At this point, every reader is called to not only be an information consumer, but also an active examiner of every claim thrown en masse. When footage of Jin's spectacular welcome spreads widely, while no trace of Jungkook or Taehyung is seen behind the scenes, the public spontaneously concludes that the two have been sidelined. But is visual absence equal to factual absence? Is their absence from a single moment strong enough to serve as proof that HYBE is directing attention exclusively toward one member? Or maybe all of this is just an illusion of selective framing created by digital platforms that operate on sensational algorithms. At the same time, ARMY's emotional reaction becomes the main fuel for the spread of this issue. Many of them feel betrayed, disappointed, and angry. But does that anger come from objective facts, or from a narrative not yet empirically tested? This is the main challenge for us as critical viewers. Are we reacting to reality, or to a scenario designed to stir emotion and create polarization? More than that, we must ask, who benefits from this narrative? If it is true that Jin is being promoted exclusively at the expense of other members, who designed that strategy, and for whose gain? But if the narrative is not entirely true, who spread it and why? Could it be we are becoming pawns in a larger perception game, driven by an entertainment industry that's always hungry for controversy and public opinion fragmentation? There is also the possibility that this event is not entirely manipulation, but a natural consequence of an individual promotion system that has become HYBE's new strategy since the military transition of several members. In such a scheme, each BTS member is promoted on a different cycle, and right now it's Jin's turn to be pushed to the forefront. But if this is true, why wasn't it conveyed transparently? Why is there no open communication to the public to ease speculation and suspicion? Could it be that this very ambiguity is being used as a tool to create viral effect that ultimately benefits certain parties? While we analyze HYBE's motives, we must also reflect on ourselves. Have we, as viewers, been trained to be critical and objective? Or are we easily provoked by bombastic headlines and information fragments removed from their original context? In this digital era, when everyone can be an information spreader, ethical responsibility shifts from institutions to individuals. Therefore, the biggest question is, are you, as part of the public, willing to verify the truth before spreading it? Or do you choose to be part of a directionless viral spiral? There is also the possibility that this conflict, if it truly exists, is not a conflict between members, but a conflict of representation occurring at the management level. Meaning, it is not Jin who chose to be promoted exclusively, not Jungkook and Taehyung who chose to disappear, but rather the power structure behind the scenes determining who is worthy of appearing and who must wait their turn. If so, then our anger should not be directed at the members, but at the system that controls public narrative unilaterally. However, still, without concrete evidence, all of this remains speculation. Therefore, it is crucial for everyone involved in this discussion to ask deeper. Am I believing in truth, or in the comfort offered by a narrative that fits my feelings? Because often, what we believe to be fact is merely a reflection of our own emotions. And this is the greatest challenge in consuming information in the content era, distinguishing between reality and constructed perception. Amid this uncertainty, one thing is clear: the importance of maintaining balance in thinking. We may be suspicious, we may ask questions, we may be angry, but we are also obliged to seek confirmation, demand proof, and restrain ourselves from spreading assumptions as absolute truth. Because when suspicion is spread without basis, what happens is not justice, but information chaos that harms all parties, including BTS members themselves. We want to reiterate that much of the information used in this analysis comes from open social media platforms such as TikTok, YouTube, and Twitter. Some content originates from netizen speculation, screenshots, video clips, and personal narratives that have yet to be verified for authenticity. In such conditions, shouldn't we be more cautious and not immediately assume everything is fact? Are we truly sure what we read and see is real, or maybe just part of a scenario crafted to steer opinion? Because in the entertainment world, nothing is entirely coincidental. Every broadcast, every camera angle, every word in promotional narratives can all be arranged to form a certain perception. And when that perception elicits a strong emotional reaction from the public, certain parties can gain significant advantage. The question now is, are you enjoying entertainment? Or are you the target of a carefully planned media strategy? As smart viewers, we must continue to ask why such a major moment as Jin's return is not accompanied by signals of solidarity from Jungkook and Taehyung. Why does the media framing seem to separate them visually and symbolically? Is this truly happening, or merely the result of selective editing intentionally crafted to create a certain narrative? More importantly, is Jungkook and Taehyung's absence a form of internal rejection against an unequal promotional policy? Or are they undergoing a different promotional strategy that has yet to be publicly announced? And is HYBE, in its silence, preparing something much bigger that we do not yet know? All these questions can only be answered if we, as the public, are willing to shed momentary emotions and replace them with critical logic. We must realize that behind every viral issue, there are always two sides that need examination. And if we only look from one side, we risk becoming victims of invisible information manipulation. We invite you not just to read, but to reflect. Do not let your anger be exploited. Do not let your disappointment be directed by irresponsible parties. And most importantly, do not let your loyalty to BTS be destroyed by a narrative that may not be true. Because in the end, the one who determines the direction of the fandom is not the agency, not the media, not the algorithm, but you.